Yep. Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Deal, where we discuss business, entrepreneurship, and commercial real estate. My name is Lacey Labs, and I'm here with my co-host, Laura Martin, as well as special guest host, Karen Niederer, Senior Advisor at SBN Lattice. In today's episode, we interview Jeremy Blount, owner and Vice President of GCM, a commercial construction company. Jeremy's very involved in the leadership and direction of GCM and in his local community. As a second-generation owner, Jeremy's business journey has been far from typical. Tune into this episode to hear more about Jeremy's journey, the business and real estate experiences that he shares, his future plans in business, and what advice he would give to younger entrepreneurs. All right, Jeremy Blount, welcome to Beyond the Deal. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I might be a little bit intimidated sitting with you three ladies, but I'm good. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get started. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your story, backstory, how you ended up as owner and Vice President of GCM.
All right. So I got to start. I'm a husband. I've been married to my wife for 19 years. We have four kids, 3 boys and a little girl. And they keep us occupied. And I'm coaching sports and doing all of that stuff outside of construction. So that's kind of my background. Faith and life are important to me. I spent several years as a full-time pastor before entering into construction. So how I got here, my dad had this construction company, and he was trying to figure out very early on when he bought it, what does the succession plan look like? He was encouraged to have an exit plan and some of that. And he came and said, hey, we've got this company. Like, is this something that you're interested in? And at that time, as I was going through different life circumstances, it seemed like an opportunity for me to step in and learn how to use my leadership in construction. So that's how I got involved in construction.
Yeah. Awesome. What about the work kind of drew you into it? What do you like about it? You know, your leadership background, your pastoral background is pretty different from construction. So kind of how did that kind of work? It
is. So what really drew me in was the opportunity to work with my dad first and foremost. I was a hospice chaplain, and as I was talking with people about life, they said, one of the things that they wish they would have done was spent more time with their family. So when my dad presented me with this opportunity to be a part of what he was doing, it all kind of aligned at the same time and said, okay, I'm not familiar with construction, and yet here's an opportunity to join what my dad is doing. I got to heed to the advice of these people that have lived life long, and they're thinking about these things. So that's kind of what presented the opportunity. Regarding construction, then, I was thinking about my leadership abilities. So I was in the church, joined church, and I saw that a lot of people maybe abused power in the church setting versus just learning to be present in that setting. And I said, hey, I've got leadership gifts and abilities. I don't want to abuse that in this setting. What does it look like for me to learn how to use my leadership in a different setting? And those things kind of all aligned, and it was the opportunity for me to come and be a part and to learn to use leadership in that setting. I've enjoyed it. It's always challenging being in the world of construction. Always challenging.
And it's a people business too, right? So you're using your life skills.
It is 100% about people. Learning how to deal with my own employees, learning how to deal with our customers, learning how to deal with developers and people that want to see construction move forward. It's been great. I was actually just talking to one of our admin team yesterday. I listened to her make a phone call, and I kind of was joking with her. I said, hey, maybe I should have you call all of the customers instead of the project managers and She called, and I don't remember who she was dealing with, but she made a friend as she was talking on the phone. And I'm like, that's what business is about. It's learning how to build relationships. So I agree 100%.
Some people are really good at that too. And you probably should let her make those calls. So. Are you born and raised in Lancaster?
I was born and raised in Lebanon.
Lebanon, okay.
Moved to Chambersburg for a little bit, and then we came to York, and York is currently.
So York, your business is in Lancaster.
Our business is in Mount Joy.
Mount Joy, okay.
That's one of the things, honestly, that I struggle with is having my life with my kids and my family happening in York and business, and I'm a part of the local chamber and some of that stuff in the Mount Joy area, and it's only a half an hour drive, but it seems like there's a little bit of a divide that happens for me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I wrestle
It is interesting. Our market, it's Harrisburg, kind of Lancaster, and York primarily, and they really are kind of three distinct markets. But given the size, population, they really should be considered one. I've always thought there should be like one chamber over all of it, but anyway.
Well, that's kind of unique to you guys, right? You just opened an office in Lancaster, and I'm sure that you're going to see a difference as you've opened that new market. Like, it's not far, it's not a big gap, but you're going to see a difference. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yes, we already have seen that, the difference between like the Mechanicsburg and the Camp Hill. I think everybody tends to build their relationships, and you kind of stay close to your relationships that you have built in your community. Going outside that community, and it's a little challenging sometimes, but if you have the personality and you're out there building those relationships, you can definitely expand. And I think you guys have done a really good job of doing that. Like it being in York and Lancaster. I mean, I know that you expand and do a lot of work around the different counties. So you have for us anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your reach? We were talking about that briefly at the open house, but
so for us, it's about people. So we work with a lot of national brands. So our national brands have kind of driven our business success. We haven't had to do a lot of marketing. The unfortunate part about that is it pulls us out of where we really want to be, which is the Lancaster, York, Harrisburg, that kind of area. So we've been in New Jersey, we've been in New York, we've done work in Delaware down by the beaches, and for one of our customers, we've spent almost all of last year in Memphis.
Wow.
Because they had a project that they wanted us to go and be a part of. So it really is customer driven for us.
That's nice so that you can go outside the area and just meet the needs of your clients.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
That's great.
Yeah. I wanted to hit on a comment that you made, in regards to Lancaster, York. We actually lost a job that was 5 minutes from my house because we were a Lancaster based company.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I live here in York. Like, this is where I do almost everything except work. And they're like, no, we want a York-based company.
Maybe you need a satellite office. Because like Karen lives in York.
I do.
Our primary office is Camp Hill, so you're up here all the time. And then you pretty much run the Lancaster office. So she's hitting all the markets.
Yes. And it's wonderful to get out there and to meet everybody. I mean, everybody is really, really nice. Like even in the York, community, I have great relationships there. When I went to Camp Hill, when I started with SVN, I had to start my relationships in the Camp Hill, Mechanicsburg area. I really didn't have as many as what I wish I had. And it took a while, but I'm building those, and now we're in Lancaster, and it's wonderful to be a part of everybody's community because everybody, even though they're different, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about your role at GCM. What do you do? What's your day-to-day? What's interesting? What's challenging? What do you like about it?
That's a good question. So when I came in from the world of pastoral ministry, the first thing my dad had me do was go out in the field with one of our superintendents. At that time, he had lost his driver's license, and he needed a way to get to work, and I needed to learn about construction. So I became his driver for the next year and a half, 2 years. And we did that, and we had a transition happen in the office, and my dad said, well, that transition kind of happened because of you. Now you need to come in and fill this role. So I jumped into project manager. One of our major customers came to us and had this growth plan that they were going to do. And they said, we want GCM to be a major part of that. I looked at my dad, and kind of naturally my leadership began to take over. And I said, well, it sounds like we need to build this team. At that time, we had a really small team, so we began to hire project managers and superintendents, and I was a part of that hiring process and helping to train those guys. And I would say that's kind of what I've been doing a lot of is developing our team, developing our staff. I do a lot of estimating still, just trying to keep up with those demands. I run projects when needed, but what I really enjoy doing is developing our staff. And what I hope to do more of is to get out with our customers and to be out with people within the community and building relationships. Thankfully, we've got a guy that started as a superintendent who we moved into the role of business development. So he was able to do a lot of that. But now we're trying to figure out how his gifts best match what we've got and where we're building to. So we're moving him more into a director of construction role. So hopefully that'll free me up to do more business development, more meetings with people that are looking to do construction. So
Awesome.
How old is GCM?
GCM's been around since 91. So we started off doing some maintenance work for a local McDonald's, and that kind of grew to opportunities to do some remodeling. My dad joined the company in 2005, and with that, he brought a whole network of people that wanted him to do their construction. So we kind of took off 2005, and 2018 was our best year. We did like 70 projects.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot going on that year.
So what does your average project look like? Kind of what does the process, how long does it take? What would a developer or investor, like what kind of expectation of timeline would they have as they work with you guys? I know it's going to be project to project, but just kind of what does the process look like?
Yeah. So I wanted to start off by just kind of saying construction's what we do, but what we really work hard on is providing construction solutions for our trusted customers. So we're not just looking for any customer. We're looking for people that we can build a relationship with, that, they trust us to come alongside of them, to work with them, to, help with whatever their goals might be. So we have a special projects team that goes out and does a lot of maintenance and repair work for customers that we currently have done projects for. Some of those relationships go back into the 90s, and, they call us for everything. Right now we're working with a customer, and they're planning to expand what they're doing. They've talked with a franchisee group that's helping them to expand, and they want to grow all up and down the East Coast. And they've kind of come to us and said, hey, we want you to be our construction partner in this. So it really varies. For national brands, which is what we've done for a long time, honestly, we're handed a set of blueprints and they say, bid this project. They set all the dates and deadlines and everything that we've got to accomplish. And then they move the project, and then we get backed up, and they move the project again, and we get backed up again. But they set the tone for what we do. They handle all the expediting. Customers that we're building relationships with, they're pulling us in early, looking at the space. Hey, this is what we want. Does this space work? They're asking us good questions that help make sure that they're making the right decision. And then we can engage with the architects and engineers to try to begin to build that process. So it really all depends on what the customer wants and needs.
What's your average? Like how long from start to finish?
So we've done a lot of remodeling of commercial spaces, and it's been for a lot of brands. So working for a brand is a unique opportunity, and there's not a lot of companies that can do it. These brands have their demands, and I think the hardest part is I'm working for local owners, and at the same time, I'm working for a corporation. So I've got two customers, and the corporation is ultimately working for the stock market. They've got to hit their stock goals and deliverables. So those projects should take probably 6 weeks, and we're getting them done in 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow.
Whatever that end date is set for is really the target. When you go over those end dates on a project like that, they begin to lose sales, and that's not good. So that they don't really want you to work for them again. So we very rarely miss those end dates. And I think the hardest part about that is we're working for these local owners, and they say, hey, I know the corporation wants us to do this, but what I really need is this. Can you do this for me in the midst of what the corporation wants done? And yeah, we know that there's this hard stop, but can you make it happen? And coming in and trying to hit that timeline in the midst of all these change orders that the owners are adding is probably the most demanding and challenging thing that we do. And it's hard to find trade partners that want to get that and want to understand that. But we try to sell them over and over again. It's repeat business. It's good opportunity. And one of the most interesting things that I heard from local ownership teams is, hey, in our work, in retail spaces and commercial restaurants, we're employing people that depend on a paycheck. They can't take all these vacation hours or whatever. And they said, so if you miss your deadline, yes, it impacts national sales, but it impacts my workers' paycheck that I try to send to a different location for 3 weeks. If it goes beyond that, then it's beginning to impact how we do business. So there's a lot that goes into thinking through construction and the impact of construction.
So for your own staff, you've got these tight turnaround times and fast and big demands. Like, how do you, as the person saying you develop your staff, you work with them, how do you make sure they maintain a health and a good work-life balance when you're up against those kind of deadlines?
Thanks for bringing up my biggest. That's the hardest part about what we do. Right now, it's trying to find people that understand that ultimately we want to care for our customer, and we're not just a construction company, but we're a company that cares about customer service. Because we've hired people that have been really good at construction and stink at taking care of the customer, and that just doesn't work for who we are as GCM. So finding and training people that are good with customers and say, hey, we do construction and we want to help you do that well. Is really difficult. And then when you get these demands, we haven't laid off our employees. So with construction, there are constant highs and lows. And so what we try to communicate is, if it's a 3-week remodel, hey, we try to give you a week to prepare for the project if you're the superintendent. We try to give you a week on the back end to work on punch lists. So for 3 weeks, you're going to work a lot. It's just kind of what it is. Tight budgets don't allow for us to send a second person there to help with that. And so I'm wrestling through that, honestly, because, I don't even like our guys to travel, because then that puts them away from home, puts them, away from investing in their kids. So trying to find guys that maybe don't have that family life, that love the travel, and trying to staff that way, things that I'm thinking through constantly.
That makes a ton of sense. Sorry to ask a hard question, but I think you answered it really well. So what are kind of your future plans? Where do you see GCM going? You're in this owner position, newer to the business, some sort of succession plan there. What do you see GCM being in the market? What are your future plans?
Yeah, so we always want to be about people. We want to make sure that no matter what, people matter. So as we hire staff, that's the focus, is how do we make sure that we're bringing people on board that are going to be about that. As we do that, we're really trying to look at the needs of our customers. We're looking at the opportunities. Part of what GCM will always be is a little bit of this quick service restaurant. It's where we kind of founded who we are. It's what we've done. I feel that we've done it really well. I mean, we're certified with McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Dunkin', Raising Cane's is a new that we're doing work with. So that's there, and they've got repeat work. And once we get a team that's good at it, we can continue to be successful at that. So that's really foundational to who we are. But those margins are tight to complete those projects. The demands are really tough. So part of the demand, kind of what you're asking earlier, is we want to be able to be in that market where we're doing what nobody else can do, and yet give our guys a break and let them do some other things. Let them be a part of other unique, cool projects that allow us to be successful. And they can say, hey, yeah, I can do that, but I can also do this. And that diversity is going to put GCM in a really healthy place. So that's what we've been pursuing for the last couple of years. And ultimately, I love that the brands want us to travel. Hey, come with us to wherever. But I want to be a local company. I want to work for local business owners that really want to be proud of their buildings, that really want to build buildings that they don't have to worry about maintenance issues. Like that's something that GCM is known for. We want to build something. We want to build it quick, but we don't want you to have maintenance issues down the road. We don't want, tile falling off the walls and, equipment breaking down and all of that. So that's kind of what we are trying to focus on is we want to do local work for local customers that we're going to their sports events. We're going to the Lancaster Barn Stormers now is what they're called, the Stormers. We're going to the Stormers and we're going to the York Rev and we're doing life with these people, not just building things. So that's a huge part of it. So for me, I can't wait to do a hotel. I can't wait to do multifamily. I can't wait to really think about and consider what adaptive reuse looks like. The fact that we can come in and remodel a quick service restaurant in 3 to 4 weeks and still provide a good quality product, I think GCM could be really successful in the adaptive reuse areas as that really becomes something that really makes sense for the culture, right? When we're going and taking all these farm fields, like that's not going to be sustainable. But to go into these areas where, hey, these are buildings that are great buildings, but how do we reuse them? How do we make them so that they're beneficial to current culture and community?
Love that.
Your company, do you use subs or do you have a lot of trades in-house? How does that work?
So that's a great question. So that's a debate that we have within the office constantly. We have our special projects team that goes out and does maintenance and repair kind of.
Which is huge because it's really hard to find people to do that right now.
So several years ago, we bought a small excavation company so that we could do some excavation and lower some of those costs when we need to. And then just recently, we started a mechanical contracting company so that we can lower some of those costs as well and make sure that, we're providing the service that we want to. So we're having some of that kind of come in-house, but for liability and some of those other things, they're separate companies. And at the same time, we want them to be healthy and sustainable. And a lot of times construction companies begin to struggle when you bring too much in-house because your overhead grows or you have a project or two push. We want to be healthy with those companies and allow them to work for other general contractors as well, or homeowners or whatever that looks like. So really wrestling with how much do we try to do in-house. The other thing is that when you form really good trade partners, and that's what we like to call them, is they're trade partners, and you've got a network of trade partners, you can control quality still because you've got a relationship with them and they know, hey, we're your partner, you're going to give us future work, and it allows you to be diverse. And some of the trade partners are better at certain types of projects. And if you bring that all in-house, I think the problem becomes that you only become good at one thing. And I want to be able to be diverse and be able to meet different customers' needs. And that really comes as you have a good trusted trade network. That's where any general contractor is successful.
Yeah.
It's a great question, though.
How many staff does GCM have right now?
So we have 40.
Okay.
When I came, I think we had 15.
Yeah.
So 30. We have 30 within GCM, and then the other companies take us to 40 something.
Okay.
So we've doubled in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how many projects? You said 2018 was your highest at 70 projects. So you guys are doing pretty. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I think
it was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're transitioning a little bit because we're trying to be more diverse. So we're taking on some larger projects.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we're wrestling through is we were used to being able to go from this project to this project to this project, and our guys were really busy. Now we've got a bunch of that still happening, but now we've got this project that you throw in there that lasts a year. Mm-hmm. And so we're not completing as many projects, although, sales volume has remained consistent with where we're at. And,
so that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still seeing your.
Have you done any projects you thought were really interesting?
Yeah. So we had the opportunity to work for Stauffer's of Kissel Hill, and we did their Mount Joy location, which was fun because our office was right down the street from that. So I led that project, and for me, that was my first supermarket, and I really enjoyed that. And then there's a developer out of New York that I was able to connect with, and we did a facade for them in the Mechanicsburg area. And then they had us come in and work with another GC who was working on a community aid. And we did the landlord's work for the developer out of New York, while the other GC worked on community aid. And that project, community aid needs a drop-off center. So we had to take part of their existing building down and remove the roof, build new walls to be able to make it so that it worked within the development space. Wow. And that was a lot of fun. It was unique. Like, to some, it wouldn't make sense, but Community Aid's a great community based company that is making a difference. And they saw a space, they saw an opportunity, and we made it work. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And then there was a McDonald's ownership group that has a property in Lidditz, and we took an old garage and we turned it into their corporate center, and it is just gorgeous. Like, cool. They spared no expense to make sure that their office communicated this is who we are as a company. And Rod and Joint Ventures in Lidditz, it's a beautiful building. If you're in Lidditz, stop and see that.
Cool. Very cool. We'll definitely do that. We make it down to Liz. We have a few listings down there.
I'll actually be there tomorrow.
There you go.
So I'll go by.
Get the address.
Yeah. Awesome. So a lot of our listeners on this podcast are just business professionals, but we tend to focus on business ownership and entrepreneurship a good bit in here. We have a lot of business owners in. So one of our questions we usually ask is, if you're a business owner, what advice would you give to other business owners, or especially younger ones who are just getting started or trying to grow as an owner to owner? What advice would you give?
Well, I don't like that. Now you said to the younger one. That's the reality we're all facing. We're not as young as we once were.
Sure.
I think one of the hardest parts about going from what I did in pastoral ministry was I built a lot of relationships. I was constantly having coffee with people, constantly over at other people's houses, or attending sports events to, encourage families. I entered into the construction world, and we were really busy, and we were in this growth mentality, and no matter what I did, I couldn't keep up. And what I did in those years was I sacrificed relationships and the networking. And now I've got a director of operations and a business development guy that's transitioning into director of construction. And so for the first time, I'm starting to be able to network. If you would have asked me to do this in 2018, I would have said, you're crazy. I can't. But to get to that place where now I'm able to network again, I think is vital, because you're sitting with other business owners and you're learning from their mistakes. You're sitting with other business leaders and you're getting inspired by what they're doing or how they're handling difficult questions like, what do you do with your balancing work life for your employees? Right. You can't do that on your own. You have to be networking with other people that are thinking about these issues. And I think that's the one thing that I would give if you're starting a business, looking to grow a business. You need to make sure that you're sitting with other people who can advise you and give you advice. So right now for GCM, my dad had that. He had wise counsel, his accountant, and others were doing that with him. And now as I look at him, he says 7 years, I say 10 or 15 years that he'll be transitioning. we're trying to figure out, what does the next generation of advisors look like? How do I get some younger people that think even different than I do to come alongside of our growing business to say, hey, have you considered this? Or, look, thinking forward. So that's key.
Get some Gen Zs in there and it'll really upside your business.
Yeah.
That's a great
funny.
point. I think we often think about looking to older generations, which we still should, but engaging those younger people to see what fresh ideas they have and bring to the table. Yeah, love it. All right, final question. If you could go back and start your career all over again, but keep all the knowledge and experience that you have, what would you do differently, and what would it look like?
I think the hardest thing for a business is to take the risk of hiring somebody when maybe you don't quite need them yet, or you can't afford them. But as a business owner, like, that's the only way you're going to get free to run the business, and to manage the business versus being involved in the day to day. So as soon as you begin to feel that tension of, oh my goodness, I can't get to that, although it's important, you got to begin to think through and plan through, what does it look like to bring somebody else on and to take that risk. And then for me, that idea of networking, you've got to be willing to make time to network and to be around others that are going to help you grow. It's a must. It really is.
Cool. It feels like COVID killed all that, but I feel like it's starting to come back.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of really good networking that is happening through local chambers, through other local business networks that are really focused on bringing people together, and a lot of both Gen Z and older generations that just are realizing that people matter and that you can't do it without people. And if businesses are really going to impact the community, you need to do it together. Like, you can't just be a lone company impacting the larger community.
Great.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. It was great to have you on. Really
you.
glad you could make the time. Thanks.
I'm really glad, and I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to do as you continue to grow and as you open your new location. It's really exciting, and can't wait to hear more stories beyond the deal.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was Jeremy Blount sharing his insights on commercial construction and business ownership. For more information on Jeremy and his company GCM, or to learn more about SB and Lattice, click the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Deal.